Why are we using McGraw-Hill? Let's go to
Let's go to Canada.
yeah, let's do the Canadian one.
You know,
Uh,
that's tempting.
I like chapter five. I think I bought the green one,
Yeah,
and the explanations are great. They're real
yeah,
simple.
yeah. We could. I could just adopt their text. I've thought about it. Originally, our thought process was, well, let's align with what Fresno State uses. Most of our kids are going there, but I'm not sure most of our kids are going there. And then as soon as we adopted the one that they used, they changed the one that they used. But I do like the fact that McGraw Hill has an online book. I don't know. I think most of our students like that. Yes? No? Not sure. I'm old school. I'd rather have the hard copy.
Yeah, I have the hard copy.
Yeah. What have you all thought about the book?
I
I don't
liked
think I'd
it.
be able to get through it without you going through it with us.
Say it again.
I don't think I'd be able to go through it by myself and understand it. It just, I feel like they make it unnecessarily thick.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was trying to
If
see.
they explain things in an unnecessarily complicated way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, and yeah.
I was trying to find where this book talks about non-chord tones, or if they do. Might be in level 10. Here's level 10's book. Whoa. There it is. Page 7. Non-chord tones. Wow. I don't think it's much different from our book, but we'll reference both just to see. All right. Well, welcome. We're starting chapter 12 today. Is that right? Let's take roll. All right, almost there. I graded your chapter. What was it? One of your quizzes.
9.
Did everybody see that? Most of you did fairly well. Some of your analyses were off. All right. Who do we got? David is here. Skylar is not. Alex is not. Jared is here. Andrew. No Andrew. Catherine's here. Ethan's here. Claire's here. Sophia Ruby. Jordan is here. Bryce is here. Nico is here. Max is here. Where's Max? There he is. Christian Missing Christian. Ethan Spikes is here. Pete is here. Zach is here. Trevor is here. Harley is here. All right, missing Christian, Sophia Ruby, Andrew, Alex, and Skylar. Does that sound right? All right. Here we go, chapter 12. Non-chord tones, part 1. Let me share my screen. Come on. Okay. Many of the examples in the preceding chapters contain notes that do not belong to the chord as analyzed. In many of those examples, these notes have been placed in parentheses to emphasize the embellishing quality of such non-chord tones, in contrast to chord tones which are structurally more important. However, to understand tonal music, we have to understand non-chord tones because most passages of tonal music contain at least a few of them. A non-chord tone, abbreviated NCT, just think Michael Jackson's PYT, but with an NCT, is a tone, either diatonic or chromatic, that is not a member of the chord. The tone might be an NCT throughout its duration, or if the harmony changes before the tone does, the tone might be an NCT for only a portion of its duration. Obviously, you have to analyze the chords before you can begin labeling NCTs, but the process is nearly simultaneous. In multi-part music, recognizing the chords and the NCTs is often quite simple, as in example 12-1, and I did not check the box to give you audio. Here we go. A little song by Schubert.
Example 12-1.
Weit in nebelgrauer Ferne liegt mir das vergangene Glück.
You heard it all right? See the non-chord tones? They're all in the vocal part. Here, here, here. One more time.
Example 12-1.
Weit in nebelgrauer Ferne liegt mir das vergangene Glück.
So we're in F major. We have a tonic, a dominant, and a tonic. And clearly, FAC is not B flat. C, E, G, B flat is not A or D. Cool. Are we all right with that? That those are all non-chord tones that do not belong to tonic or dominant? Moving on. Next section. All right, here's everything you need to know in a nice handy dandy chart. Classification of non-chord tones. I'm just going to take a little screenshot right now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Sorry. I'm back. One way of classifying non-chord tones, NCTs, is according to the ways in which they are approached and left with an asterisk, a Barry Bond asterisk. What does the asterisk mean? Performing enhancing drugs, but they don't list it. They just put an asterisk. That's fun. The following table presents the basic definitions of the various types along with abbreviations. Those in the top half of the table will be discussed in detail in this chapter. The others are discussed in chapter 13. I don't get it.
Did you press the asterisk?
I didn't. Should we press it? NCT terminology is not standardized, and your instructor may prefer that you use different labels and definitions. However, the definitions given here are widely used.
Why'd they have to put an asterisk? Why didn't you just put that in the...
I don't know. All right, well, that was fun.
Why are they including things that are in chapter 13 in this?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, if they really are or not. Let me go old school. Hard copy here. Chapter 12. So you can't see it in your version at all, which is unfortunate. But this is what the For Realsies book says. There's a big line. There's a big line from here to there. And in this chapter, we're only talking about the top 4. And in the next chapter, we're talking about the bottom 5. Is that all right? I don't know why McGraw-Hill didn't get the line in the online version. Probably had to pay somebody $20 an hour to put a line in, and they said, nope, not going to do it. Okay, so we're only talking about passing tones, neighbor tones, suspensions, and retardations. Passing tones are approached by step and left by step in the same direction. Neighbor tones are approached by step and left by step in the opposite direction. Suspensions are approached by the same tone and left by a step down, and retardations are approached by the same tone and left by a step up. Easy? Can we handle those 4? Let's go back up to the Schubert, Schumann, somebody. Schubert. My red stripe is still on there. So what do we have here? Approached by step, left by step in the same direction.
Passing tone.
Passing tone. Another passing tone. What is that?
Is that a neighbor tone?
I believe so. Yep. All right. Example 12-2 provides illustrations of each of the NCT types in a 3-part texture. Passing tone, straight through. Lovely stepping stones, 3 in a row. Neighbor tone. Approached by step, left by step in the opposite direction. Suspension, approached by the same note, left by a step down. Retardation, approached by the same note, left by a step up. Let's listen to those, shall we? We are in E major. It's the blind of 3 blind mice. Neighbor tone. Suspension. All right, retardations. Are we all right with all those?
So the only difference between those is that one is down and one goes up.
Between the suspension and the retardation, yes.
Okay.
All right. Next, the ones we're not supposed to be talking about, but are talking about, are the appoggiatura, the escape tone, the neighbor group, the anticipation, and the pedal point. The escape tone is approached by step and left by leap in the opposite direction. I am skipping the appoggiatura. The appoggiatura is approached by leap and left by step. The escape tone is approached by step and left by leap in the opposite direction. So appoggiatura, leap, and step. Here's what it sounds like. Are we all right with that? Escape tone. Approached by step. Whoa. Left in. Leap in the opposite direction. And for this book's intents and purposes, they're calling anything that's not a step a leap. So, I don't know. In my piano class, I differentiate between a skip and a leap. This book does not. Are we okay with that? Questions so far? Next up is the neighbor group, which is approached. Who knows? It says, see the neighbor group, page 207. Let's see what Canada says on the neighbor group. Canada says the neighbor group doesn't exist. I think they're calling it something else. Looks like in French. Échappé. I don't know how to say it.
Google Translate it so you can just hear what they how they pronounce it?
Oh, we don't want to be correct, do we? We don't want to sound like we know what we're talking about. The neighbor group, a common method of embellishing a single tone, involves a combination of two non-chord tones in succession. The first being an escape tone, the second an appoggiatura. The figure is referred to as a neighbor group, also called a cambiata, or changing tones. As example 13-4 illustrates, the neighbor group bears a resemblance to a neighboring tone figure. It's like that, but it isn't that. All right, now you've got me interested, Catherine. I don't know what this thing is, and I want to know. This is why we had that asterisk, right? Whoa, where are we? Whoa.
If you type in pronunciation, you could also get.
I'm more curious of what the heck it is. There you go. There's your IPA. Échappé.
Échappé.
A melodic ornamental tone following a principal tone by a step above or below and preceding by a skip. You got a musical example for us, dictionary.com? No. Jerks. A melodic. This says it's approached by step and departed by a third with a change of direction. Does that sound like a neighbor tone? We got to go back. I would say that's that, because there is a step and a third with a change of direction. So I think that's what they're calling a neighbor group. Échappé. Cool. Now we got to go back and find out where we were. All right, anticipation. I've got a joke to tell you what an anticipation is. Are you ready? You ready for my joke? It's a knock-knock joke.
No.
Here we go. Knock, knock.
Come in.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow.
Boo!
Ha.
There's your anticipation. Trevor did not like my joke. The anticipation comes in early, just like the interrupting cow. We're back in E major. We have a 7 diminish in first inversion. That darn soprano had to get to the tonic before everybody else did. That's an anticipation. And then we have a pedal tone. It didn't need to. It's not part of that chord, but it just hung out and let everyone else change on top of it. And there are your non-chord tones. What do you think?
I think it's going to make it a lot more versatile.
A lot more what?
A lot more interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be able to label and talk about what we're doing now. All right. Other terms used in the description of NCTs include accented, unaccented, diatonic, chromatic, ascending, descending, and upper, lower. These terms will be brought up in connection with the appropriate NCTs. Various sections in the remainder of this chapter are devoted to a more detailed discussion of the NCT types that involve only stepwise motion, passing tones, neighboring tones, suspensions, and retardations. So the rest of this chapter is just the top 4 of the graph of the chart. First up, passing tones. The passing tone is used to fill in the space between the 2 other tones. The 2 other tones may belong either to the same or to different chords, or they might be NCTs themselves. Usually the space between them is a third, either up or down, and the passing tone is given whatever scale degree lies in between. In example 12-1, the B-flat 4 in measure 3 is used to fill the space in between A4 and C5. Similarly, the A4 in measure 5 fills the gap between G4 and B-flat 4. The B-flat 4 and the A4 then are passing tones, or more specifically, unaccidented diatonic ascending passing tones. You might think this terminology is too detailed to be really useful, and you would be right. Most of the time we would refer to the B-flat 4 and the A4 as passing tones and let it go at that. However, a good musician, although perhaps not consciously using all the modifiers employed above, will still be aware of the possibilities and their influence on the musical effect. So make sure that you're all good musicians, boys and girls. Occasionally, a passing tone fills the space between 2 notes that are only a minor. Let's look at 12-1 first.
It's a passing tone's always diatonic.
That's a great question. That is one of the modifiers that good musicians use. So no, I don't think it has to be. You could get a nice chromatic one, maybe.
What was the point of that half that paragraph?
Which half?
The bottom half.
To guilt you into wanting to know all your modifiers and be able to confidently use them. I'm going to go with that. That's all I got for you.
Okay.
All right, example 12-1. Let's go back. Where are you? Why won't you load? It's broken.
Joke's on you. There is no 12-1.
Here's 12-1. So they were talking about the B flat and the A.
Why can't you listen to it anymore?
We can. Would you like to listen to it again?
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, always.
Why can't we listen to it? Oh my goodness.
That's probably why it didn't load.
What is going on?
Example
Can you hear it?
12 1.
Weit in nebelgrauer Ferne liegt mir das vergangene Glück.
So, you've got a slight dissonance there. Because that B flat does not belong to my F chord, my FAC F chord. And the A does not belong to my CEG B flat, dominant 7th chord. With me? Questions?
Can you go back to that other paragraph?
Sure.
Because I can't tell if they were trying to say there is a difference between like all the different passing tones, because there are two different types in that.
Yes, they are saying that there's many ways that you can modify or use modifiers to describe them. Specifically, unaccented, diatonic, ascending passing tones. So in that case, they were all ascending passing tones because they went up the scale. They were all diatonic because all the passing tones belonged in the key, but not the chord.
Okay.
But Pete's question earlier was, can we have a passing tone that's chromatic, not diatonic, does not belong in the key? And I believe the answer is yes. Are we all right?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Occasionally, a passing tone fills the space between two notes that are only a major second apart. Look at example 12-3 from the Jupiter Symphony. The G sharp 5 in measure 56 is a passing tone, but the two tones that it connects, G5 and A5, are only a major second apart. The G sharp 5, Pete, then is a chromatic passing tone, as is the A sharp 3 in the bass line in measure 58. They do not belong to the key we are in. Still referring to example 12-3, look at the first violin part in measure 59. The tones G5 and D5, which are a perfect fourth apart, are connected by two passing tones, F sharp 5 and E5. In measure 61, several passing tones appear in the first violin part. Technically, the A4, the D5, and the F sharp 5 are chord tones, and blah, 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 and the others are passing tones. In a functional sense, however, all the tones after the A4 serve as passing tones, filling in the minor seventh between A4 and G5, connecting the half cadence in measure 61 to the beginning of the next phrase. See the textural reduction that follows the example. Finally, notice that the A sharp 3 in the second violin part in measure 58 is a chromatic passing tone as analyzed. Two lines are being played simultaneously by the second violins. Let's just listen to it and look at it, shall we?
Example 12 3.
That was fun. Let's listen again.
Example 12 3.
I don't know. Those pitches in the violins were a little squeaky on that chromatic run.
Example 12 3.
Sounded a little bit like a gliss to me. Nah.
They're wannabe violists.
It's a public domain symphony of, Modesto Symphony or something, Some tiny group that is thrilled that you're using their recording in your theory book. I don't know. No offense to the Modesto Symphony. Call me. I'll solo with you anytime. Okay. Do we know what's going on?
No.
Awesome. Let's clear it up. Here we have a passing tone. Passing tone because it's approached by step, it's left by step, and it's a non-chord tone.
Same direction, too.
Same direction. Now, because we are good musicians, we are going to use a modifier that's going to say, this is a chromatic, ascending passing tone.
Unaccented.
Unaccented. So they're just saying you can add those modifiers. But we know it's a non-chord tone because G sharp has no business being in the key of G major. That is a non-chord tone. NCT. Talk to me. What are you thinking? What are your questions? Are we okay with our first passing tone?
And that's a passing tone and not, what's the other one that goes up, but it's by step up, not just a step up?
Say
Or
that one more time.
Ascending. Okay, go back to the chart. Where's my little handy dandy?
The chart is like 4 screens away.
I know, that's why I took a screenshot of it. Where did I put it?
It's a passing tone because it's approached by step and it's left by step in the same direction. A neighbor tone, a retardation is approached by the same note, the same pitch.
Okay.
Ran the chord beneath changes.
Retardation then?
It is not a retardation because it is a different pitch. Pitch number 2 is a G sharp, not a G.
Oh, okay.
2 different pitches. With me?
Yes.
Going on. The violas have a passing tone.
Good for them.
Yeah. The viola's life is all passing tones. Everything they play is non-chord tones. So that's a joke. We've got an A to an A sharp to a B. Passing tone, non-chord tone, approached by step, left by step in the same direction. It is an ascending, chromatic passing tone because we're good musicians. We know that. Unaccented. But we know that that A sharp has no business being in G major. The only sharp that has any business being in G major is F sharp. So we know that as a non-chord tone, passing tone. Are we okay with that? The cellos, also doubled by the double basses, have a passing tone. Same thing, just an octave lower. Often they will double the same part to make the violas stand out because they're not playing the same pitches even though they should be. Another joke. Forget I said anything. Violin 2s have the deedle-deedles. Deedle, 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 deedle. And in their deedle-deedles, they get a passing tone. Right there. So we are playing a 5 chord, which should be D, F sharp, A. And we have A, D, A sharp, D. Now you're probably thinking, that's not approached by step. That's not left by step. How is that a passing tone? if you just take this line, A sharp, B, you can see their climb. Because they've used Alberti bass with their deedle.
You could almost look at it as a neighbor tone too. I mean, if you look at the F.
I'm not seeing the F, so enlighten me.
Maybe I'm blind. Is it a D that's
It's a
next
D.
to the A?
Yeah.
Okay.
A, D, A sharp, D, B, D. Yeah. Are we okay with the second violins? We'd always make fun of the second violins and say things like deedle, 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 deedle. And my teacher would say, everybody gets paid the same in the orchestra. All right. Next, we've got some passing tones. Now, because we're good musicians, we can see that this is a descending passing tone. It's diatonic, though. Don't let that sharp confuse you. That sharp belongs because we're in G major. But the F sharp and the E do not belong in my GBD tonic chord.
How many passing tones in a row does it make? How many passing tones can you have in a row before it's too many?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a subjective question. Because what's beautiful and what's not. But as we see, my boy Wolfgang here used 4 in a row, 3 in a row, before we had another chord tone. And he followed that up with 2 more. So we have a string of 9 tones, 5 of which are passing tones in CTs.
And arguably, they're all passing tones because of the violin glissando.
So, is there a wrong answer? It's just like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, right? Moderation in all things. There's some life lessons. The instructor has adequately related the course content to my life. Strongly agree. All right. Are we okay with understanding that this F sharp belongs in the key of G and this E belongs in the key of G? So they are diatonic passing tones, but the F sharp and the E do not belong in my GBD tonic chord. So we're calling them descending diatonic passing tones. Oh, that was a mouthful. Claire, you're giving me that look. Claire, do you understand that F sharp and E belong in the key of G major?
Sure. I'm just trying to take notes over here.
Yeah. So we are in the key of G major. And my scale is that. So my F sharp and my E are there. So that makes them diatonic, where my A sharp over here is nowhere to be found. That is a chromatic passing tone because that tone does not belong in my scale. These are diatonic passing tones because they do belong in my scale, but they do not belong in my G, B, D tonic triad. Are we good now? Better? We're going to fake it till we make it? Smile and wave. Elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist, wrist. Wipe a tear and blow a kiss. Okay, moving on. Escape tone. We have an escape tone here. And according to our chart definition, an escape tone is approached by step and left in a leap in the opposite direction. So we've got the step, we've got the leap in the opposite direction. C belongs in the key of G, but C does not belong in my GBD tonic triad. So it is a non-chord tone.
I don't like how they don't differentiate between a skip and a leap.
Yeah, it bugs me a little bit too.
Because you said leap, and I was like, oh, I don't see a leap. Oh.
Yeah. Now, in theory world, a skip is anything that's not a step. Or a leap is anything that's not a step. All right, then we have a whole string of passing tones. Let me play it so it's not a glissando. He should have put one more in. He should have put the F in. That's just me being creative on Mozart. So how many of these passing tones are diatonic and how many of these passing tones are chromatic? We're good musicians. We have to know. F sharp, does it belong in the key of G?
Yes.
So it is diatonic. Does E belong in the key of G? Yes, it's diatonic. That one is not. D sharp has no business being in the key of G. D is. C sharp is not.
Why is E also parenthesized?
Because E is a chord tone, but it is not a member of my tonic or my dominant.
Okay.
With me?
What are the keys above the passing? Oh, okay.
So the notes of my dominant triad are D, F sharp, and A. So if you're not a D, an F sharp, and an A, but you are a G, a B, a C, an E, then you belong with our chord in our key. You're just not part of the dominant chord, so you are a diatonic passing tone. So the C sharp and the D sharp don't show up anywhere here in my G major scale, in my key of G, so they are a chromatic passing tone. You with me? Questions, comments, concerns on passing tones? Seeing none, hearing none, I'm going to clear my screen and move on. Is that all right? So they did this. As a textural reduction. I don't know how helpful it is, but you get rid of the deedle-deedles that way. We're just going to move right on.
Those darn deedle-deedles.
Deedle. Almost as good as the chuck, chucks. All right, welcome to Tonal Counterpoint Revisited, adding motion on the weak beats. In Chapter 11, we introduced a one-to-one first species tonal counterpoint in which the bass line and the contrapuntal line moved at the same speeds. Most tonal music can be analyzed as an elaboration of this simple two-voice texture. In particular, the emphasis on harmonic consonances, effective melodic shaping, And maintaining independent voices will serve us well even when we are working with more complex elaborations. In this section, we explore one of the ways in which these simple textures can be elaborated into more interesting compositions. The addition of motion on weak beats of the measure, beats 2 and 4 in our examples. When adding weak beat pitches, we will use two different types, passing tones and arpeggiations. Wait a second, this wasn't on our chart. Type 1 passing tones. As mentioned in the previous section, a passing tone is a dissonance that is both approached and resolved by step in the same direction. In other words, it passes from or connects one tone to the next. There are many types of passing tones. For example, in a 1, 7 diminished 6, 1, 6 progression, the bass note of the 7 diminished 6 chord is a passing tone that connects two positions of the tonic triad. For our purposes, however, we will be using a more restricted definition. In this section, a passing tone will be a non-chord tone connecting two tones a third apart. So they've clamped us down. We're only going to see non-chord tones connecting two chord tones a third apart. The passing tone is the only harmonic dissonance that we will be using in these exercises. Avoid using dissonant neighbor tones. The weak beat passing tone is the least prominent dissonance that we can use, so it represents a good first step in our contrapuntal treatment of dissonances. In order to add passing tones to a one-to-one texture, such as those used in Chapter 11, you have only to find a leap of a third in one of the voice parts. Any such third in 4/4 time may be filled in with a passing tone if you feel it is musically desirable, unless it causes objectional parallels, discussed later. Is anybody feeling overwhelmed? For example, the bass line in example 12-4 is shown in two versions, one embellished and one containing passing tones wherever possible. As with all non-chord tones in this text, we label the passing tones with parentheses. Well, with that introduction, here we go. We have a bass line in G major. And then they decided to dress it up with some passing tones. You'll notice that they are all non-chord tones, approached by step, left by step. And in this case, they are all diatonic. They belong in the key of G, but not to the chords of the Roman numerals. Are you with me?
Yeah, it makes more sense when you look at it than when you read it.
Absolutely.
No, like we were saying, the book's explanations are way too thick.
Yeah. And it helps to hear it too. So I'm going to play this again. I'm going to play both at the same time with the distance of an octave, so you can hear what's going on. So you can hear where they filled in the bass, yeah? So that was passing tones. Next is arpeggiations. An arpeggiation is a movement from one tone to another with both tones belonging to the same chord. Because we are working only with triads in this section, an arpeggiation can only be a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or octave. Arpeggiations may be used anywhere that passing motion is not used. Smaller leaps are generally better than larger ones, but the leap of an octave is an effective cliché when used in the bass over a 5 chord, as shown in example 12-5. We're in C major. Did you hear the arpeggiation? Fa, so, so, do. There's a better example. 12-6 features the bass line from above, but now with arpeggiations embellishing the 2 basic notes that had been left unembellished by passing tones. However, this is not a good example of a bass line in the style we are working with because, number 1, the monotony of constant half notes has been replaced by the monotony of constant quarter notes, and 2, the 5-to-1 cadence has been weakened by the first inversion chord. Does everybody see that there were 2 arpeggiations in that example? Let me circle them. We had an arpeggiation here, and we had an arpeggiation here. Everything else was a passing tone, a non-chord tone passing tone. Here,
the arpeggiation is chord tone.
It is a chord tone. So we're in G major. My 2 chord in G major is going to be A, C, E, true story. And we skip from C, which belongs, to A, which belongs. We arpeggiated on our 2 chord, playing 2 of the Roman numerals tones. We did the same thing here. My 5 chord is spelled D, F sharp, A. And we went from a D to an F sharp, both tones belonging to the chord, and arpeggiated it. Notice that neither of those arpeggiations could be called a passing tone because they're not approached by step or left by step in the same direction. With me?
Can they be arpeggiations and passing tone?
No.
Okay.
Because by definition, an arpeggio is a skip from one chord tone to another chord tone of the chord, and all the notes of the chord are thirds apart. True?
So arpeggiations aren't NTCs.
NCTs, no, they are not. They belong. Begs the question, why are we talking about arpeggiation in a chapter called NCTs? I'm with you. Why are we? They're trying to get cute and tie it back in to the one-to-one species counterpoint that we came from. That's my answer. I'm sticking to it. We're revisiting tonal counterpoint and leaving. Yeah. That's all I got for you. All right. Questions? Moving on. Two similar but more effective versions of the same bass line appear in 12-7. Notice that the second version calls for an octave embellishment of the cadence. All right, top line. All right, here we are with our octave embellishment. Sorry. Same Roman numerals, a lot more passing tones in the second example, and we did our octave arpeggiation. Are we okay with that?
I don't understand why they changed the ending.
Because they wanted to be cute.
Okay.
They wanted to be more Baroque-ish. I don't know. There are three other points to remember about these types of weak beat pitches. Because we are following the melodic guidelines from Chapter 11, remember to prepare and resolve any fifths, sixths, and octaves in the direction opposite of the leap. For fourths, only the resolution needs to move opposite to the leap. Number 2, arpeggiations can move either by step or by leap into beat 1 or 3 as long as no other problems are created, like 2 consecutive leaps that don't span a fifth, sixth, or octave. Number 3, the bass line should not contain arpeggiations that descend to the fifth of the chord. Leaping down in this manner creates an implied 6/4 chord and suggests that inversion too strongly. Leaping up to a fifth of the chord is often less problematic, but you should listen to the result to determine its effectiveness. Thus, in example 12-7, the bass line should not move down to an A2 on the fourth beat of measure 2, even though it is part of the prevailing 5 chord. What are they saying? Fourth beat, measure 2. They don't want you to do that. To me, that's a fourth, but okay. We're going to call it a fifth. Its inverse is a fifth.
Awful lot of norms here.
Yeah. Okay. We're in G major. Our note is a D. A fifth above that D is an A. So they're saying do not leap down to an A. Do not leap to the fifth on a weak beat because it creates an implied 6/4 chord that suggests that inversion too strongly. Feel free to use any combination of passing tones and arpeggiations in your counterpoint examples. Passing tones with their characteristic dissonances are the most interesting, so try to use more of these if possible. I would probably avoid arpeggiations altogether, unless I was trying to be cute at the end, like that. But make sure you resolve that by the opposite direction, yeah? Are we okay? Moving on. Contrapuntal considerations. Sounds like a segment on Jimmy Fallon. This has been Contrapuntal Considerations with Jimmy Fallon. Many of our principles of motion between voices from one-to-one counterpoint apply equally well when passing tones and arpeggiations are added. So avoid static motion, voice crossing, overlapping, more than 3 parallel imperfect consonances on strong beats, and consecutive large leaps in the same direction. That was your Chapter 11 recap right there. In Chapter 11, we also discussed the avoidance of parallel perfect intervals and direct perfect intervals, such as fifths, octaves, and unisons. This principle applies to our embellished counterpoint as well, with the following additions. Yay, more norms! First, avoid parallel fifths, octaves, and unisons in 2 different contexts. Context number 1. between successive strong beats, beats 1 and 3 or beats 3 and 1. Even though there are intervening weak beat pitches, the strong effective parallels carry through the weak beats. If you write a 1-to-1 counterpoint texture first before adding the weak beat embellishments, you should easily be able to see these parallel intervals. In addition, the use of underlines with strong beat interval labels should help you to find these parallel intervals. See example 12-10 for an example of this format. Do we do it? Do we do it? Do we do it? Oh. Did we want to do that? Okay, so I think they just want us to see the format. The format is we've embellished our half notes by putting in a quarter note non-chord tone, in the upper voice. We all right with that? Number 2, between a weak beat and the following strong beat, for example, beats 2 and 3 or beats 4 and 1, even if you start with a good 1-to-1 version, you will have to be careful so that added passing tones and arpeggiations do not create parallel fifths, octaves, or unisons. The addition of a pitch on the weak beat can introduce parallel intervals with the next strong beat, even if no parallels existed between the two successive strong beats. In example 12-8, there are parallel fifths between beats 2 and 3 in measure 3 and in measure 5. Let's find those bad examples. Are you seeing the parallel fifths? Who sees the parallel fifths? Their measure numbers are not matching up in my world, but I see parallel fifths.
Yeah, some of them are labeled, but
So we have a parallel fifth here, and a parallel fifth here, and a parallel octave here. Is that what we're talking about? To me, I would not count that as measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
right.
So there are 3 types of people in this world, those that can count and those that cannot. Man, this book is getting ripped today. Okay. I guess they need like some differentiation here that shows that we took this and made it that. I don't know. Anyway, we see the parallel fifths, right?
I think the break is supposed to come like in between the 5 with the underline and then like the break and then through the underline. I think that's the only way.
Say that one more time.
I think the implied break for the measures is in between the 5 with the underline and 3 with the underline, just before the first.
Right here.
Yeah, right there.
Gotcha. And a double bar line was asking too much. But still, I don't call that measure 3. I don't see how to call that measure 3. I could call that measure 1, or I could call that measure 2. How are we getting 3?
No, that's definitely 1 because you have the anacrusis there.
McGraw-Hill, are you watching? Make sure you like and subscribe below. Add a comment. Tell us that you're there. This is wonderful feedback. You can list my name, Dr. Brandon Bascom, in your list of contributors to your next edition. All right. So, let me play these for you because I think you'll be able to hear them. Here's version 1. We are in E minor. Here's the embellished version. Hear the parallel fifths? Some of you are like, ew, gross, stop. Parallel octave. Parallel fifth. Now what they're missing is what they normally do in the book, and they write pour, pour, pour above it, right? That's what we're used to seeing. They don't do that for some reason.
We shouldn't be doing parallel fifths regardless of the passing tone, though, right?
I believe no, yeah. Because they tell us to be careful. They better be listening.
Canadian Royal Conservatory.
It says, first avoid parallel fifths, octaves, and unisons in 2 different contexts. And that's context number 2. So, oops. So when you add embellishments, do not add embellishments that result in parallels. Second, the addition of a weak pitch in the contrapuntal voice is also effectively disguises direct intervals between successive strong beats. So you only need to avoid direct motion to a perfect interval in the upper voice between a weak beat and the following strong beat, from beats 2 to 3 or beats 4 to 1. Occasions may arise in which you want to embellish both of the lines at the same time with passing tones, arpeggiations, or a combination of the two. This is fine as long as the simultaneous embellishing notes form a consonance, a unison, a minor third, major third, perfect fifth, minor sixth, or major sixth. Example 12-9 illustrates both effective and ineffective simultaneous embellishments. We are in G major. That's okay, because it's parallel thirds, and we don't have more than 3 of them in a row. And then we go to a sixth. Ooh, that's a no-no, even though it's pretty.
It sounds cool. What the heck?
Yeah. They don't like our sevenths. I don't like the way they resolved that. All right. Huh. All right. How we doing so far?
Definitely have to go over the video again.
Excellent. That's why I make them. And to be YouTube famous with all 314 followers, subscribers.
You got more subscribers? Congratulations.
Yeah. I've made
numbers going up.
Yeah, 14 this semester. That's amazing. Over 14. We started below 300.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Remember back when we were $2.99?
And in just 6 years, we're going to make it to 1,000 subscribers. Right in time for me to retire. And then I'm just going to live off of the residual income from my YouTube channel.
I mean, you could continue making videos to boost it. You could post all your jokes.
How to insult violas and sopranos. All right. Good news, bad news. Good news is we made it through. We've almost made it through the first section. Bad news, this is a really long chapter. Okay, next. Embellished cadences. It is musically effective to embellish beat 4 in the upper voice immediately prior to the final cadence chord, as long as no errors are introduced or the line made excessively disjunct. Several such embellished cadences are shown in example 12-10. So here we go. We are in C minor. All right, here we have the second example, the 3-8-5. Third example. Fourth example. And the fifth example. It's too disjunct. And we have a diminished fourth. They're saying that one's bad. So I'm going to play these again, and I'm going to take the embellishment out. So you can hear how they're nice little decorations filling the gaps. Yeah? So it's nice little touch. All right. With respect to the bass line, certain cadence types are more effective to embellish than others. Half cadences can feature embellished bass lines on beat 4 as long as no errors are introduced. However, a change of pitch on beat 4 in the bass would weaken the fifth motion of an authentic cadence. The most effective way to embellish the bass line of an authentic cadence is to leap by an octave to the same pitch, as shown in example 12-5. Remember that if both voices are embellished simultaneously, the simultaneous embellishments need to be consonant with each other. 12.5. Ah, yes. That base arpeggiation. So that's the most effective way in an authentic cadence to embellish, is to do that. Leap, leap. Are we all right with that? We are out of time today, but we will pick up on this again. Next is embellishing versus composing, and then we've made it to our self-test 1. So we've almost made it through the whole first section of the chapter, which is great. Questions, comments, concerns, friends with questions? If not, we will see you tomorrow in ear training.
Thanks, Doc.
You are welcome.
In a couple hours, sir.
Good, Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. B?
Yeah.
I don't know if I was marked here, so.
You were not. I will get you.
Okay, thanks.
See ya.
See ya.